As the U.S.-Israel war on Iran enters its fourth devastating week, global oil markets are panicking over the threat of widespread energy disruptions. But the momentum of the conflict briefly halted when President Trump announced a strict 5-day delay on planned military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy grids. The condition for this pause is simple. It relies entirely on quiet, behind-the-scenes conversations making actual progress. That 5-day window turns a military standoff into a high-speed diplomatic race against the clock. Usually, these kinds of last-minute negotiations happen in traditional neutral hubs, like Geneva or Oman. But the reported destination for this emergency summit is Islamabad, Pakistan. High-level U.S. representatives are already preparing to make the trip, a delegation that reportedly includes Vice President J.D. Vance and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. Publicly, both sides are downplaying the development. The White House is urging extreme caution about drawing conclusions, while Iran is flat-out denying that direct talks are taking place. Despite those public denials, the physical movement of these delegations places Pakistan right at the center of the geopolitical map. Look at this map of the Middle East and South Asia. Pakistan occupies a specific geographic and diplomatic position between the factions. Islamabad has established security ties with Washington and a mutual defense pact with Saudi Arabia. At the same time, Pakistan shares a massive land border directly with Iran. Because Washington and Tehran lack formal diplomatic relations, Pakistan also legally represents Iran's diplomatic interests inside the United States. That specific overlap of defense treaties, shared borders, and legal representation makes Islamabad the only viable space to put these adversaries in the same room. Pakistan's urgent diplomatic push is currently being driven by a series of severe internal crises, starting with its highly vulnerable energy supply. If regional supply chains remain disrupted by the conflict, Pakistani officials project the country will completely run out of liquefied natural gas by April. This chart visualizes Pakistan's fragile current account deficit, the balance of trade and incoming payments. If the war causes even a 10% drop in global worker remittances, it removes $2 billion annually, pushing the economy toward collapse. Then there is the country's demographic makeup. Pakistan hosts one of the world's largest Shia Muslim populations, meaning a full-scale war involving Iran carries a high risk of violent domestic spillover. For Islamabad, stopping this war is a desperate requirement for national survival. They aren't doing this alone. A coalition of regional powers, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and Pakistan, operates as a synchronized diplomatic machine. Pakistan's army chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, has been working the phones with the U.S. president, while Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif carefully handles direct coordination with Iranian leadership. Meanwhile, Egypt and Turkey are actively relaying messages between White House envoys and Iranian officials to lay the groundwork for a meeting. Pakistan is providing the physical venue for a highly coordinated, multi-nation strategy to contain the fallout. Right now, the situation remains highly sensitive. Back-channel communications are operating at maximum capacity to secure commitments from both sides. Iranian officials are reportedly reviewing the points delivered by these mediators, even as military posturing continues in the Gulf. The mediators must maintain a delicate balance, keeping Washington and Tehran engaged before the 5-day pause on airstrikes expires. The architecture for a ceasefire is in place, but it rests entirely on the fragile trust these intermediaries have built. This scramble to assemble a summit in Islamabad highlights how the mechanics of modern conflict resolution actually work. The warring parties themselves are rarely the ones managing the de-escalation. Instead, the regional neighbors, staring down the immediate threat of economic and social collapse, become the primary engines forcing everyone to the table. In a deeply interconnected world, the desperation of a vulnerable neighbor like Pakistan may be the only force strong enough to stop a wider war.